So my wife was like, you gotta get rid of this stupid chart. What does this thing even mean? So I figured, before I throw it in the trash, I'd give you a little rundown. This is something I slowly worked on when I was in Pennsylvania, graphing over time. And it kind of deals with all of us when we come into the chiropractor. And there'll be a point to this whole chart at the end. And most of us, we start with pain. I don't know if you can see that. Pain, right? And remember, if there's pain, there's some type of injury. We kind of have to embrace that idea. So just go along with that. Micro or macro means macro is like a big traumatic injury, like you're in a car accident. Micro is like trauma over time. Something's sneaking up on you. Because most of us, I put 90%. It's a mix of both. But usually it's over time through posture. There's muscular imbalances. We'll get into that. Injury happens that way. We don't really notice. It's like, I didn't do anything, doc. It just kind of appeared. So sometimes we get adjusted, and we get movement. We see the chiropractor, and it addresses what we call the primary component. So like I had an injury, and they fixed my neck, and everything else realigned. Posture went better. Because every action there's an equal opposite reaction. So top bone out my neck, the rest of my body can twist. So if we catch that early enough, we can resolve that, help you out. Most of us, we have this other thing where we see the chiropractor, we get some relief, but we have the acute stage, and then we have the most cases of the chronic imbalance stage. So let's go over here to this more confusing part here, the ligamentous area. So joint tissue is funky, and even the discs, we can consider them ligamentous type joint tissue. So we got two different sides here. Let's start with the degenerative, because most people are kind of familiar with that idea anyways, is that we have degeneration, and that's a shortening of that joint tissue. That's similar to what we call arthritis. So if you look over here at this joint, the jammed up, restricted side, it's fixated. That's where we want to get more motion in that joint. That's what the chiropractic adjustment is kind of designed to help with, get more motion in that fixated joint before degeneration or arthritis kind of set in. But we don't really think about the other side too much, where we have a sprain of the joint. So that's a lengthening of the joint tissue, if you will. And so that's instability we see. So that's the green over here, where if you sprained an ankle, what are you doing? And it's usually a tendon, but there's joint tissue or ligaments that are getting overstretched. So that's an instability. A lot of times you'll notice people, their foot will form invertedly after they've sprained it, because that tissue has never been retrained to come back the way it should be. So we have those same idea in our spine that we have to address. So we could have a fixated side, or we could have a hypermobile side. There's unstable. So correction all depends on we just talked about mobilizing the fixated joint. And the ligament that is sprained or hypermobile, that's a little trickier. So let's come back up here to imbalances that are present. So we have muscular, that comes back to the ligaments. We'll tie that together. But we have the same kind of idea. We have muscles that are hypertonic. They're short, contracted muscles. Sometimes I call these your dominant muscles. Sometimes it's one-sided, or you can have them on both sided. And we'll flip that to the other side. Example of one-sided could be here, where the X's are. So that's a one-sided, let's say that's your quadratus lumborum muscle, so it's attaching those ribs and top of your iliac crest there. So you can see, maybe that's not the cause, but that's something that's definitely present, and you can see how the spine distorts. And maybe it started up here, primary injury, and everything else twisted to fit that idea. But we still have this muscle that's dominant that needs to be addressed as well. Confused yet? Me too. On the opposite end of that, we have a long or strained muscle, or maybe not even injured, it just could be inhibited. If we have a tight hamstring, we know that the quad muscle is inhibited. It's not able to work as well because the pelvis is now tilted posteriorly because of that tight hamstring. The quad just can't engage like it should. So over time, that quad continues to get weaker, 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 while the hamstring becomes more used because your body's used to using it. So another way to think of that is weak. And that can be a muscle that is strained. So we sprain ligaments, we strain muscles. And there's more that we can get into here, but maybe that makes sense as to how we correct. The sprained ligament is actually to address the muscles. So we need to strengthen the muscles around the injured joint, the joint that has been spread apart. That's the correction there that we're dealing with. So when we have, because mobilizing, yeah, that's fixing half the problem, but usually if there's one side that's fixated, the other side is strained. So we need to not only mobilize, that's what I always say with foam rolling, yes, we're mobilizing, we're stretching, but now we need to strengthen as well. And, especially one-sided, but a lot of us have bilateral stuff going on. It's from the side view. We don't have a side view here, but, this is what we call a unilateral issue. So bilateral would be like the hips being pushed forward or the mid-back being rounded. So they're both joints can be affected either in a fixated form or in a form where they are stretched. So that's what spinal stability is all about. It's about strengthening these areas. Let's say like right here where the joint is kind of spread would be fixated obviously on the left, and then that strain would be on the right. Obviously this isn't fully anatomically correct, but it's just so you can give the idea that, yes, we're going to be evening it out through chiropractic, and I'm going to be, mobilizing that fixated joint, but then we have this sprain joint that needs to be, have the muscles around it strengthened so that joint can be supported to allow it to heal. Otherwise, it just, And sometimes, it's not so much that it's a chiropractic issue, that there's, these bones are getting out of place purely because of the muscles. And usually, when you're younger, you get injured, whether traumatic or trauma over time, the muscles will rebalance very quickly after an adjustment. But if they've been set in for a long time, it's a chicken or egg at that point. We have to correct both things. So getting the spine adjusted is half the battle at that point, and then addressing the muscle. And usually what I find is not actually addressing these one-sided things right off the bat. That's not what we really do in spinal stability. And I'll bring this home here, is we strengthen the spine first. And then, because most of us have too much motion in the spine in certain areas. So once we deal with that, we can really focus on these one-sided issues next. And so, spinal stability-wise, classes will be this will be the last Wednesday class. And then I'm doing a low back stability course. So that's going to be all November. And there's going to be course material. We're going to be covering different topics, 4 classes in the month of November. And there's only be like 1 or 2 spots available for that. So if you're really interested, talk to me, talk to the front desk, and we'll sit down with you and see if you are right for this class. And we'll tell you about what we're doing. We're going to be taking pictures of your posture from the side, from the back. We're going to be taking scans again. We want all these things. We're going to use these to see if you do actually improve. I'm going to be focused on strengthening the spine and just seeing what your exact condition is. So we'll be looking at what your weaknesses are, what your dominances are, a lot of what we just talked about on this chart, where these injuries are and how do we strengthen them. So that's going to be taking place November, so soon. The Friday classes, spinal stability, it's still going to be open to everyone who wants to come. We'll probably be sticking with just doing it at Rimrock Wellness Center. But, Fridays at 1:30, it still should be nice and sunny for a while, so maybe we'll try to get out to either maybe Lincoln Park or Canyon View. Maybe that'd be nicer for some of you, so let me know if that's closer to you. If Canyon View is better, but I'm going to take this old chart and put it away, but I figured it would have one last hurrah. It's getting a little... I noticed it had these little spots on it. I think it was because it was in my father's x-ray room for the longest time. That it's probably pretty well radiated, so it's probably good at me getting it out of my house. But there's the goal right there. Get that spine straight. That's what we want. So come to class. We'll learn more about that. You can check me out either on Rimrock Wellness Center YouTube, some of my stuff. Most of my stuff is on Greater Exodus Vitality Restoration, but if you are interested in that low back stability class, let me know. I think we got 1 person already signed up, so I want to give it to 1 or 2, 3 people, just so we can really focus. But, it's good to have camaraderie, I know. If it's just me and you get bored. Like, he's abusing me, so it's good. I take focus off somebody else. But if you're interested in that, let me know, and probably December we'll be doing something else. The other doctors have suggested upper cross syndrome. Maybe we'll do feet strengthening, but hit me with ideas and what you'd like me to focus on, and I will write more course material for that. But right now, I got the course material done for the low back, so that's what we're going to be doing. and maybe we'll stick with that for a while. Because that's where most people are living, right? But opposite on the spine too. We need to focus there. So that's upper cross syndrome, headaches, imbalances up there, and a lot of that relates. It's, you know, like we said, chicken or egg. You know, just because the QL is tight doesn't mean it's all about the quadratus lumborum here. You know, if that spine is getting twisted, we're gonna have to see something else happening compensation-wise in the shoulders. So we need to address that as well. So it's not just a tunnel vision focus on one area. That's all I got for you guys. Go to bed. It's late. I'm tired. It's only 6:30. Okay, get some dinner.